going to get started really quick. I put together slides because I'm fierce like that to talk about the motherhood penalty. So if you have any questions as we go along, you can just pop them into the chat and then I can answer them. So if you have questions about really anything, but the last part, it's not going to be one of those sessions where I'm just telling you about like all the problems we have. There's also some solutions that we can talk about. So let me pull up my presentation now. Here it is. Share that. And there, so you guys can still hear me talking, I think. Let me do this. Right, okay. So I am gonna scroll through this. So the title of my talk today is Motherhood Penalty. And oops, there it is. Oh, hi. People are saying hi. So I'll start with who I am. So my name is Allison Venetti. I am a multitude of things. I am a career coach, I am a mentor, and I'm an HR and accommodation expert. I also am an advocate for working mothers and for pay transparency, which I do through my group called Moms at Work. I have two businesses. My first is Career Love. It is career coaching with a focus on working mothers. And then also Moms at Work, which is Canada's largest network for working mothers. We now have 5,500 women and growing. So in my spare time, I'm the mom to three little boys. They're 9, 7, and 2. I love Star Wars, coffee, clever mugs, winter biking. I'm like the only person who likes winter biking. And I'm excited to be here. So I popped in my websites. My Moms at Work website is launching on Wednesday. But today we're going to be talking about motherhood penalty. Tomorrow I'm going to be back here talking about career change. So if you have questions about how to do that, what it looks like, I'm going to break it all down. I don't hold anything back. There's nothing secret to what I do. Next slide. So I'm not going to read you slides because that would be very boring. But the motherhood penalty was a term coined many years ago. Sociologists argue that working mothers encounter systemic disadvantages in pay, perceived competence, and benefits. So when we talk about the wage gap, we're actually talking about like a motherhood pay gap, because single women without children tend to make close to what men do. So the real wage gap starts happening when women have children. So the per child wage penalty that they've sort of wrapped their heads around is approximately 5% per child. So for me, I have 3 children. The expectation is that I would be making 15% less. Because purely from the fact that I have children, that is not including the fact that I'm earning less because I'm a woman, and because I have a disability. So there are so many other things in there that add to the wage gap, but having children is one of the biggest ones. So the resulting pay gap is impacted also, and they call it systemic because it's so many working pieces. They feel in multiple surveys from over 80 countries, they feel that women are less committed to their jobs, less dependable, and less authoritative than non-mothers. So this isn't even against men, this is against other women. So this is the perception of working mothers. Now, don't worry, don't freak out because everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's not, but to say that the wage gap is a women versus men problem is categorically wrong. It is actually mostly dependent on if you have children or not. And so I broke it down there. I said that, they've been documented in dozens of industrialized countries. So UK, Poland, Australia, whatever. And the problem with the motherhood penalty is that it has not shown any signs of declining. So there hasn't been at any point, even in the last 3 to 4 years, which you would have expected since companies are always screaming about how they're supporting women, there has not been a decline in the wage gap for working mothers. So as bleak as that sounds, now it's not all one size fits all. The other part that impacts the motherhood penalty is actually there's also something called a fatherhood bonus. So while mothers lose 5% of earnings, Men, on the other hand, are viewed more favorably once they have children. They're seen as stable, they're seen as providers. So, in actual fact, motherhood and fatherhood seem to exist in opposition to each other. Men have the potential of earning all sorts of things because, as fathers, they're seen as more competent. If that man is white, middle class, and has a stable home life, he is viewed as the most appropriately masculine man available to earn a raise. So even though this is 2020, there is still this inherent view that men with children are the ideal worker. And that is across every industrialized country. So that's what pushes it even further. So not only do we have the motherhood gap, we also have a fatherhood bonus on top of that. So that stretches the wage gap even further, right? So there's several layers going on here. Now everybody's like, yeah, but Allison, what about people who are like academics or doctors or surgeons? Like, shouldn't they be making the same thing? They should, but they have just released reports in the advertising industry, not shocking advertising industry, academics. So female academics make 15% less on average than male academics. Surgeons, engineers, it went across all systems, all roles, all jobs, women are paid less. So if you look, the Bloomberg just put out a very, very interesting graph that showcase. So if you can look up Bloomberg Magazine online, and it's a public, so there's no paywall. You should be able to read it all. It breaks down every industry, every job role between women and men, and then it further breaks it down for men of color, women of color. So that is very stark as well. So there's other systemic issues at play that push the wage gap even further. So I will let you do that. Next slide. Now I know what you're feeling. You're like, what? How can I do anything about this? This is awful, right? Like, I feel so unable to make any sort of change, right? Which is, like understandable. This is like a lot of heavy stuff being thrown at people. So I made a list of things that you can do. Boop. So what can we do? How can we change this? The first thing is advocating for balanced leave policies. So even in Canada today, some mothers have their employers provide 6-week top-ups. That's a whole bunch of new companies are offering that, but they're not offering it to men. So can they do that? They're like, isn't that discrimination? How can you offer it to one or not the other? It's not. If it's not federally or provincially regulated, and it's not, the feds and provincial governments provide the baseline for maternity leave. So what you're entitled to for, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. What you're entitled to for basics, right? So everybody's entitled to maternity leave in Canada if they have a certain number of hours, but what your company offers you is not federally regulated if they want to offer you more. So people are starting to take notice and they're like, hey, but why are women provided this and not men? So it's pushing women towards taking more of the leave and not providing any incentive for men. So there's current studies going on in Japan and in the Scandinavian countries showing the importance of supporting men taking leave to care for children. Shifting the view of women's time as infinite and men's time as finite. So Eve Rodsky, who we had come and speak at the in our Moms at Work group, wrote a book called Fair Play. This was almost a decade in the making, and she interviewed over 500 couples. That's from same-sex couples, opposite-sex couples, the whole thing, to see what the views were on, how women and men divide their time in the home. And the biggest takeaway that she said was that everybody, including women, viewed their time as infinite. So it's like, well, I can just pick up the groceries and do this and do the laundry and pick up and go grab the kids and bring them to a play date and organize a playmate. And there's sort of like no end to that series of events. Whereas men are able to like turn off more easily. So that's something that when I say, how can we change this? I would strongly recommend people pick up a copy of that book to get a better understanding of how you can start treating your time as finite. The third thing, easy, pay transparency. So pay transparency, there is legislation that exists in Ontario. When our new government came in, they stopped it from passing, so it's on hold awaiting further public consultation. But that pay transparency legislation received royal assent, so it's like anytime, and probably will wait until our new government comes in. They're just waiting to stamp it and put it through. And what that legislation provides in Ontario provides a few things. It makes it illegal for you to ask a new employee what their current salary is. So when you're applying for jobs and they like to put that little how much is your current salary, they will not be able to ask that. That's one of the ways that it helps keep salaries down, specifically for women and people of color. So if you are making $38,000 and your new employer knows that you're making $38,000, then the likely scenario is they're going to try and pay you less. Whereas if you were making more initially, you will continue to make more because they're allowed to ask that question. The next thing that they're going to have to do is something that I do not allow in my Moms at Work group, is you have to put the salary range on the job posting. Can you imagine how much time you would save applying for jobs if you knew how much the salary was? So honest to goodness, I've been in HR for 15 years. No one has ever given me a good reason for not listing the salary. Any company that says they don't know is lying. You have to get approval before you put those job postings out. Other places try and see it as competitive. I call bull on that too. That's not competitive, and you're not showing yourself as a good company if you're not willing to be transparent with people up front. But that legislation should come into act likely in the next 2 years. The federal government is currently passing pay equity legislation that should probably come into impact in about 2021, and to the point where we've appointed the Canadian Human Rights has appointed a pay equity commissioner. So Karen Jensen is the new pay equity commissioner, and she will have the power to impose changes, policy changes. She'll be able to slap financial fines on companies that do not comply with the pay equity legislation, but these are going to be for companies that are federally regulated. So federally regulated companies are banks, telecom like Rogers and Telus, railroads, airlines, those types of things. And I'm going to put some links on my website so that you can see more about those informations. The next thing is you can say thank you to your unions. So I am not for sure like super pro-union or anti-union, but they have done so many wonderful things for women. The Postal Workers Union gave us maternity leave as it stands. Unions gave us a 5-day work week, that it would be illegal to have someone work 7 days a week. And they've created well-paying industries for women, including nursing and teaching. So the final thing is I'm like also a huge advocate for safety at work, is that they have really been the advocates for health and safety legislation, health and safety, healthy and safe workplaces, including union agreements that have given extra attention to women in the workforce, especially pregnant women. So the final thing is that I wanted to say, I'm like, we can support each other. So the one thing that I do in my Moms at Work group, so Moms at Work is a Facebook group, but we're also a community outside of that. We do all sorts of other things, is we look to support you in creating change in your workplace and in your life. So if you're looking to be an advocate for change in your workplace, we would like to help you. So we're working with the Vanier Institute of the Family, which is a policy and research organization, a think tank, if you have it, in creating projects, including one called the Policy Monitor, where we're going to look at publishing as many companies' maternity and paternity leave policies and other flexible work, remote work policies, so that we're not in the dark here. I think it's totally unreasonable that some companies are like hide their policies and you have to beg for them, when we should be sharing this information so that we can really push our agenda forward for creating much more equitable equitable workplaces, right? So those are sort of the things that you can do. If you have any more questions about how to do some of these things, I really suggest that you go and have a look at some of this legislation. It's not hard, it's not complicated, but it should be coming in the next few years, and it will make a complete difference in how we support women in the workplace. Now I just threw a lot at you, so I am going to leave time for questions and answers. I left about 10 minutes at the end, and I'm going to just put this here, ways to get in touch. So you can, I always encourage people, I'm like, if you have questions about pay transparency, if you have questions about the motherhood penalty, if you have questions about things like that, there's my email. I have 2 websites. Moms at Work is coming shortly. You can join our Facebook group. We have all sorts of resources in there, and you can follow along on my Instagram, where I talk about this stuff frequently. I also promise that I'm funny, so you won't be disappointed. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. I'll put it back up after. I know that there's people in here. Do you have any questions about the motherhood penalty? Any questions about things that are easy to do? Oops, what's the Facebook group? That's the Facebook page. I'm going to give you the group here. Sorry, I'm going to do this Facebook. Sorry, Moms at Work. Okay, guys, I'm going to give it to you here. This is it right here. I'm going to pop it in right here. That's the Facebook group there. Instagram.com/this is moms at work. There is my Instagram as well. So if you're not on Facebook and you're just on Instagram, you can hang out there too. But those are my things. Any questions? We've got 16 people here. If you have questions, need resources, how do I talk to my boss about this? If they don't show the pay range in a job, how can I get that sort of information? If you have questions, you can put it in the chat box, and I am happy to answer them. I think a couple of you missed the first part, but this will also be recorded and shared. So, so that you can watch it again after if you missed the first part. Questions? If not, I'll just give you more information. Okay, I wait for some questions to pop up, but the first thing that I'm going to address, I'm like, if you are interested in bringing forth issues like pay transparency or the motherhood gap at your workplace in a way that doesn't make you want to freak out, is to talk to, like, HR can maybe not be the fastest way. I'm like, you can talk to your director, you can talk to your boss's boss about some of the legislation that's coming down the pipeline, because I think people are very unaware of the fact that this is going to be law likely very soon. So that is a good motivator to get on top of these things and start having these discussions. So I always recommend, I have resources in that on my website about pay transparency is coming armed with information and the benefits that pay transparency has. So one of the main benefits as an HR person is that it presents you as in a great light as an employer. Everybody wants to have an employer that's understanding, that supports women, that supports mothers. So being upfront with the benefits that you offer and the pay range that you offer is can't be a wrong way to go. People get their backs up because they're like, oh, but what if I want someone more senior? Or what if I want someone more junior? I'm like, then you give a range. So employers are not making this stuff up on the fly. They have to have a pay range, a hiring range, we call it. So producing that hiring range is good enough. Okay. Oh, hi, Tanya. I'm speaking to recruiters who need to document my interested pay range so they can add my information to their database. Any suggestions on how to approach this scenario? So I'm like, if you can catch them at the beginning before you're talking to the recruiters, write the first question in there is to say, can you show me some of the roles that you think would be suitable for me and the associated pay ranges? Recruiters are not used to having such pushback on this, but they're getting it more and more. So I'm a recruiter. I do some recruitment for women-run businesses. If they want to document your pay range, I would give them a ridiculously big one. And I would start your pay range. So this is what happens. It's like women intensely undervalue themselves. So if in your head you're thinking, you know what, I'd like to make 60 to 80. I want you to bump that up to 70 to 90, right? I want you to bump it up by at least $10,000. That's what I like want. So you can still give a range, but your mid range in your mind should become your bottom range. That's usually how I approach it. Studies have shown that women tend to undervalue themselves, especially when giving salary things. And I always recommend giving a band, but bump it up. So um, they're trying to not waste your time. But you're trying to not waste their time either, right? Like, are you really going to be happy with 60, or is like 70 kind of like they're starting a new job is one of the top places to earn more money. So I also look at things like, and that would be my other response to them is, what other things are offered? Like your number may look different if you talk about benefits, stock options, vacation time, flex time, um, the number of hours in a work week. So that's the other thing that's kind of tricky. Some employers are 40 hours a week. Some employers are 36 hours a week. So I would say I'm like, this is my range, and give like a $30,000 range based on the number of hours, based on the expectations of the workplace. So I would give like a multifaceted answer. So that they know where you're coming from, because 36 hours versus 40 hours is a huge difference in time and money. What is the best resource for finding appropriate pay ranges for new roles? I'm probably changing industries after my mat leave, and I had no idea where to start. So currently it doesn't exist, but shocking, my Moms at Work group is going to be gathering salary ranges and salary information from Canadians from different industries. So I'm working with someone who works in data analysis, one of our group members. She's putting together a document. So we're asking people to volunteer to provide their salary data. It's going to be anonymous, but we will make that available probably in the coming weeks. So it will be really, really great to have a resource that's Canadian, that's current, that talks about the other benefits in it. So like maybe someone's making $40,000, but their stock options are worth $20,000, or maybe because that's hard for sales. Sales often makes lower money, but like has large bonuses. So at least you can go in confident saying, like, I know this is my range. Like, I know that I'm undervaluing myself. I know that, and we're asking people to to personally declare their gender as well, so we can see the difference between men and women. So yeah, so all in the group. The group link is up in the chat if you want to join the Moms at Work group, but that should be coming down the pipeline in the next couple days. Yeah. It doesn't exist right now. The closest thing we have is sort of pay scale, and that doesn't provide enough information. And yes, most of what out there is American. So recruiters tend to have back end access to kind of these databases of salaries, but they're really big ranges and they're really dependent on company size. So that's the other thing that I'm adding is like, if the company says, I'm in healthcare, but it's 50 people versus like working for UHN or Princess Margaret, those are going to be different numbers. And I also ask how many years of experience, things like that. But yes, super helpful if you're switching industries. Okay. Any other things? I should also say I'm like much of the so our Moms at Work speaker series is free. Our resources are free. I run the group. I do coaching and I do membership programs and things like that. But a lot of our group members volunteer their time to help make some of these things happen. So I'm really, really thankful that as a community, we're helping to break things out here, including resources for appropriate pay ranges for new roles. Okay, we have 5 minutes. This is a short session. I'm glad. Yes, Alana runs an amazing Momstio is amazing. Alana has always been a huge supporter of mine, and I'm a huge supporter of hers. So yes, but Moms at Work is a great resource, but it's very, very specifically for career, right? Oh, hey, I'm like so glad. Hey, Christella. I'm so glad to get to see people who I know. They're just popping in to say hi. Yeah, okay, 4 more minutes. I'm happy to talk about other things, but for those of you who are here, I'm back here tomorrow. I'm talking about career change. So Cassandra, I am letting you know that tomorrow I'm talking about career change. So you had asked because you're changing industries after mat leave, and we can talk about the best ways to do that post mat leave. I run a program called Ready to Return, and it's Canada's only program for women returning to work from mat leave. I'm not launching it until January again. My background is very significantly rooted in return to work, disability management, and return to work processes. So I created Canada's first program for women returning from maternity leave because it doesn't exist, which is just like horrific and disgusting to me that we do not have programs to support women going back to work from maternity leave. So you can look out for that stuff too. Sorry, I just went on a small rant. I went on a small rant about like yeah, I rant a lot. Sorry about that. Micro rant, that's me. People who are in my group are used to it now. They're just like, oh, just getting upset about pay transparency again. Yeah, so check out all those resources. But yeah, come back tomorrow and we'll talk about career change. We can talk about, especially post mat leave, the easiest ways to get into that, right? They like my micro rants. That's great. Yeah, but my background comes, I should say that I created return to work programs for Coca-Cola and Aramark and lots of engineering firms and that. So those programs include, help supporting people when they're returning to work from long-term disability, from workers' compensation, short-term disability, like those are all regulated leaves. And so there's a lot of money and time and effort put into returning workers from work after an injury, but nothing to support women after maternity leave, which is just disgusting in 2020. So I whined about it for a while, and then I created my own program. So I have a whole bunch of experts, sleep consultants, psychologists, dietitians, you name it. We've got them all available to answer all of your questions as we go back from that. But that's not the motherhood penalty. So any more questions about sort of pay transparency or the motherhood penalty or things that you can do? And I'm going to pop my group in there. So we do a lot of things in the Moms at Work Facebook group, including speaker series and like a free speaker series, as well as free. We're going to be doing a salary gathering project so that we can showcase what the salaries are for when you're looking to change jobs and things like that, because in Canada it doesn't really exist that much right now. Okay, one more minute. I'm actually sometimes scared to tell part-time jobs that I have kids. Yeah, you know why? Because places are discriminatory. So I always tell people, I'm like, until the number of people that they did another study that showed the number of women who removed their wedding rings during interviews, it was stunningly high. I work a lot in tech, so it's very male dominated. And you know what? I don't blame women. Right? So no, I don't think you should talk about kids in your initial interview. No, I don't think you should talk about anything personal. I am always wary that some companies are not equipped with HR, or they're not equipped with good HR. And I have heard all sorts of things being asked in initial interviews that are not to be asked, right? So they are not allowed to ask you about kids. They're not allowed to ask you about disabilities, right? Oh yeah, Christella came from tech and then went into auto. Yeah, yep. See, and the other thing, Moms at Work, is we're going to be sharing these stories, right? Like, I was actually told. So Christella just said I was actually told by my first all-female job that I better not be pregnant after she hired me. Like, and people say that, they're like, ha ha ha, you better not be pregnant. And I was like, that's not funny, right? Like, it's not funny. It's like, even though I just laughed. Yeah. And then she got pregnant 5 months later. So that happens. So there is a lot of discrimination. There's a lot of things we can do. She actually asked in the interview if I was done having kids. So yeah, so it's there. It's out front and it is blatant and it is discriminatory. And there is a lot of things that we can do to change this though. So that is the end of my session. I'm going to log off. You can find much more of me in my Moms at Work group. Website is launching on the 15th, so you can check all of that out. And we're going to have a pretty intense speaker series coming up, including the Pay Equity Commissioner of Canada. So exciting stuff. But thank you to Alana for having me here. Thank you to Moms TO. And I will be back here tomorrow to talk about career change. Bye, guys.